Saga from Azerbaijan, the story of Badam, Chapter 1, Badam and the Fish. There was once in antiquity a very poor man called Badam. He was so poor that he didn't even have a hut where he could seek for shelter from the cold and bad weather. In the summer, he slept on the street, under a cover, or in the open sky. But now winter was near, and the poor Badam would have to endure all inclemency of that season. Finally, our poor man decided to make a cave for himself. He went to some inhabitants and asked them to lend him a pickaxe and a shovel. By compassion, they didn't deny him the request, but now returned them with the tools, chose a well-suited place and began to dig. He had already arrived at a certain depth when suddenly struck something that immediately realized that there were 7 pots of clay full of gold. His joy had no limits. He pulled out a handful of gold, covered the pots with the earth already extracted, and went to the city center. There he sold the gold, and with the money he had raised, he contracted workers and ordered them to set up around that place a high wall. Then he adjusted engineers and constructors, and offering them a good sum of money, ordered them to construct a building that, by its grandeur and beauty, would overtake all the other of that region. The work took place for a whole year, and the result was a so wonderful building that travelers who passed there stopped to contemplate it and were full of admiration. The city residents, on the other hand, were amazed by such wealth, but as more as they looked for, they couldn't find an explanation for it. For the same person that before worked around begging for handouts was now the richest man in the town. But when they asked him where he had gotten so much money, Badam used to respond saying, "You will know that I always lived in the most extreme poverty, bearing with patience the cold and the hunger, and the still many other revolts, and rather than complain, I praised Allah, and Allah, taking pity on me and admiration for my great patience, sent me riches and thus transformed the darkness of my difficult days in luminosity. Then, as a sign of his gratitude to Allah that made him worthy of such wealth, Badam ordered to build next to that building another building of special character containing 7 doors. And when the beggars came to him in search of their alms, these were distributed in an organized way through the 7 doors. Once, among those who came to Badam, there was a dervish. Generally, as soon as they received their ram, the beggars went away immediately, taking each one their road. But the dervish stood there, and Badam then asked him, "Have you not received your ram, dervish? Or are you waiting for something else? If you are waiting for something else, then say what it is, that you will receive it immediately." "I don't expect for nothing," said the dervish. "In my whole life, I have always traveled, and I'm now going to the west. But when I arrived in the city, I wanted to meet the people and to know how they lived. Then I saw in a square a crowd of beggars as preparing to go somewhere. I asked them where they were going, and they told me that since in the city there was a very rich man called Badam who had built a house especially for the poor, where they could go to receive their alms. That was where they were going. I then followed them, and so I got to you. In this town, I don't know anyone, so I ask you by kindness to let me spend the night in your home for the poor, so that tomorrow morning I can resume my wanderings around the world." The dervish's request was not denied, and in the conversation they had at night, Badam wanted to know everything he had seen around the world he had visited. The dervish's account left Badam very impressed, and in the end of the conversation, he said, "A few years ago, I ordered to build this home for the poor. Every day, hundreds of beggars come here to receive their alms, and I give money to everyone through these 7 doors. And since you, in your wanderings through different countries, met a lot of people, tell me something. Have you ever seen somewhere in the world someone like me?" To that the dervish replied, "You are really very generous and help the poor. But I met a person who, in generosity, surpassed you. In the reign of Shah lives a man named Badam. Every week he organizes banquets, and to them invites poor and beggars. At mealtime he orders to serve the pilaf, which is a typical food of the Persians, in golden plates with golden lids, one for every 2 visitors. And after the meal, everyone wins to a raffle the golden plate and the golden lid as a gift from the owner of the house." Badam was so impressed with what he just heard that got astonished. as he had lost his voice. Before he was burned, just to imagine that nowhere else in the world there was someone who, in generosity, could even approach him. But now he was convinced that, indeed, Badam was more generous than him. And so he said to the vision, "Such an extraordinary man I want to see with my own eyes. Therefore, early tomorrow I will travel to the city where Badam lives. But before that, I want to make you two requests. First, that you change your clothes with me. Second, that you stay in my place until I return, distributing the alms to the poor the way I do." Then he gave to the rich the key of the trunk where the money was kept, and went to prepare for the trip the next day.